All right, so UFC 298 is just a few days away. And as always, on a pay-per-view, the main card is stacked from top to bottom, okay? It's topped off with a title fight, which is great, which is incredible. And that's going to get people to tune in. But let me tell you, another reason to watch these fights is because of the very intriguing storylines which surrounds every single fight on the main card. Yes, the main event, there's the featherweight title. The stakes are high. But when it comes to the person behind the fighter, the stakes are even higher. There's some intriguing stuff. If you peel back the layers, okay, like an onion, okay, and look at the actual storylines, well, then there's something very, very big going on. Something dramatic, something interesting that I'm going to break down for you right now. So let's start with the main event. Seems like a good place, okay? Volkanovski is incredible, the former pound-for-pound #1, and we know a man that lost his last fight to Islam Makhachev, knocked out by a head kick in round 2. So what's at stake for this guy? Well, of course, he wants to defend the featherweight belt, okay? He wants to remain the champion and continue his career and make money and all the rest of it. But he's got to do that against Ilia Topuria, a man that's undefeated, 14-0. So what's at stake? Well, his entire career essentially rests on this fight. The success of this fight is massive. Because, look, listen, every fight's always the next biggest fight, okay? And you're only as good as your last fight. These are kind of cliches, but truth that gets thrown around the fight game. But think about this. If he loses to Ilia Topuria, as I mentioned yesterday, Volkanovski's 35. The last 33 fights involving anyone that was 35 or older, they lost 31 out of 33 fights. So if Volkanovski loses this to Topuria and he just lost to Islam Makhachev, I think there's a good chance that perhaps he never fights for the belt again. More importantly, it would signify the beginning of the end of his career. So that's a lot of pressure on Volkanovski. Now, he's very confident. He's looking to put a beat down on Topuria, and he might well just do that. I can't give you a prediction because I'm commentating the fight. That would just be rude. But when you look at this on paper, Topuria with the smooth boxing that he has, the amazing wrestling, the jiu-jitsu accolades, and the confidence, brimming with confidence, okay? It's a dangerous matchup. And if he is victorious, as I said, that could be the beginning of the end for Alexander Volkanovski. So it's not just a title fight. This is potentially a career-saving title fight, okay? Because, yeah, loses his last 2. This narrative about the older guys, okay? And all the other contenders coming through, who knows? Maybe he would get an instant rematch, and if he wins, they would have a rubber match. But who knows? Now, moving on to the co-main event. Robert Whittaker taking on Paulo Costa. I'm the biggest Robert Whittaker fan. I think he's sensational. I love his personality. I love the way he handles himself. And I love the way he fights. Beautiful boxing. Transitions to the takedowns almost seamlessly. And outside of Israel Adesanya, we all know he was the next best middleweight for quite some time. But the division has moved on. And I'm not just saying because Dricus du Plessis got the finish in round 2, I think it was. No, when we look at the middleweight division, the top names right now, it's Dricus du Plessis. He's the champion of the world. Sean Strickland, he was the champion of the world. Israel Adesanya hasn't fought for some time. And when you look at Robert Whittaker, where he is, even though he's still one of the most dangerous, he's kind of being lost in the shuffle. And he's also got a really hard fight, right? Paulo Costa is no walk in the park for anybody, right? He's out of his mind, okay? He's a funny guy. He's a bit of a strange one.
The secret juice with some notes of ginger and a little bit of...
All right, he's funny on social media, only 32 years old. But this guy's the real deal. He ain't no idiot. Yeah, sure, sometimes he shows up 20 pounds overweight, right? And it seems like he doesn't take the fight game too seriously. But even in that fight, a loss against Marvin Vettori, where they had to move it from 185 to 205 because he wasn't respecting the weight class, he still went 5 rounds at a really good pace. The point that I'm making is the only 2 losses on his resume are to Israel Adesanya and to Marvin Vettori. After that, last year, in fact, 2022, he had a great fight, a great performance against Luke Rockhold. Luke Rockhold showed up, fair play to him, okay? But he got Luke Rockhold done, who's a former champion. He beat Yoel Romero. I love you, man! And if you look at that fight with Yoel Romero, and the fight with Marvin Vettori, and the fight with Luke Rockhold, what do they all say? This man can take a shot. This man can stop a takedown. This man has a gas tank. And this man's a stone-cold killer. If he gets his shit together, he's going to be a real problem to deal with. Now, what are the stakes for Robert Whittaker? You probably already know where I'm going. But if he loses this fight, there's a chance that once again, he might never get to fight for the belt ever again. He's still a young man. He's only 33 years old, but there's always the next generation of fighters coming through. We've got people like Bo Nickel, right? Who's a massive, massive prospect that's going to do big things. On his record, of course, right? He's had some amazing wins, okay? Kelvin Gastelum, Jared Cannonier, Darren Till, Marvin Vettori, as I say. But the fight with Marvin Vettori and Paulo Costa, right? This is a key matchup for me because when you look at Robert Whittaker versus Marvin Vettori, Vettori couldn't land on him because Whittaker was too smooth on the feet, right? Marvin just wasn't quick enough. Costa is. And Costa was able to hit Vettori a lot, okay? And Vettori was able to take that damage, okay? Because he's got a chin like fucking granite. Robert Whittaker was just knocked out. Robert Whittaker's been in a lot of wars. There's a lot of wear and tear. He's only 33 years old with only 31 professional fights. But there's a lot of wear and tear on the body, okay? Just lost to Dricus du Plessis. If he loses to Paulo Costa, right, which, as I said, isn't an easy match, but Costa's hard to take down. Costa can take a shot. Costa can land a shot as well. So on paper, it's a difficult matchup. I give Whittaker the advantage in speed. I give him the advantage in technique, okay? But the better skilled fighter doesn't always win. And if Whittaker loses this, where does he go? Okay, he's still highly ranked. He's still respected by the world of mixed martial arts. But does he fight for the belt again? Kind of a similar situation to what Alexander Volkanovski finds himself in. It's a tough spot for the Australians. All right, moving on. Geoff Neal, Ian Machado, Garry, right? Machado, Garry. This man talks a lot, okay? He upsets a lot of people, but he's also very good. He's very skilled. He's walking into this one extremely confident. He thinks he's going to put an absolute masterclass on Geoff Neal. Geoff Neal's no walk in the park, right? Geoff Neal took Shavkat Rakhmonov to the absolute limit. Yes, sure, he got finished in 3 rounds. But Shavkat Rakhmonov is very similar to Ian Garry in terms of height, length, structure, and build, right? Ian Garry can kind of replicate the performance of Shavkat Rakhmonov if he's a little more disciplined. See, Shavkat, because of all the grappling credentials that he has, he was happy to go into the pocket against Geoff Neal, which allowed Geoff, that has predominantly just a boxing approach, to connect, to find the mark, to land some big shots, to wobble Shavkat a couple of times. If Ian Garry stays on the outside and picks him apart and uses the length and the speed that he has, make no mistake, he's fast. That could be a very, very frustrating night for Geoff Neal. But what's at stake? Well, there's a lot of pressure riding on the young Irishman because he has to win this fight, right? He pulled out of the last fight, as we know, against Vicente Luque in the midst of an absolute shitstorm, okay? All this stuff around his wife, the cook, the ex-husband, the taking on the last name and all this type of stuff. Sean Strickland coming after him. Like, Strickland did a really good job of turning the entire fan base against him, just like he did against Israel Adesanya, right? Strickland has a knack for that. So in terms of the MMA public, the buying public, the watching public, the supporters, even the haters, he's got to go out there and shut them up. He's got to back his words up, okay? Because if he doesn't, he's going to get ridiculed to no end. And granted, sure, he's not going to give up, right? But I'm telling you, the stock will drop. And Geoff Neal, listen, Geoff Neal, he's got a point to prove. Machado Garry was wandering around with his face as a mugshot, so he's going to get some respect back as well. But mainly, there's a lot of pressure on Ian Garry. Undefeated, that sometimes can bring a little bit of pressure. I don't think that's going to affect Ian because he is so supremely confident. It's not fake confidence, but the social media shitstorm, the attacks online that he gets constantly, they are only going to bloody explode even more if Geoff Neal does what he can do, which is knock him out. Let's remember, I think it was Son Kanan wobbled Ian Garry. If he can, Geoff Neal can. But who will be the victor? That remains to be seen. Moving on. Again, it's doom and gloom for Mikey B. I don't mean it to sound like that. I'm just trying to let you know what is at stake in this in terms of their careers. Merab Dvalishvili, Henry Cejudo. Henry Cejudo, could this be the last dance? If he loses, of course it could be. Henry Cejudo came back from a 2-year retirement and lost to Aljamain Sterling in a fight that he thought, on paper, he would breeze through because of the wrestling credentials. Aljamain is pretty much a wrestler with some decent striking. Henry Cejudo, a gold medalist at the Olympics, okay? But Henry Cejudo is no spring chicken, 37 years old. And if he loses this one, where does he go from there? This could be the last time that we see Henry Cejudo because he's not here just to take part, just to be in the mid-card. He wants to be a champion, and I respect that. But at 37, with the career that he's had, with the money that he's made, the gym that he has, the academy and the coaching and everything else that he does, he doesn't necessarily need this. But he wants to be the champion of the world. The man is a born winner. But if he loses this 2 in a row, which is something he's never done since he signed with the UFC back in 2016, lost to Demetrius and then to Benavidez. Then he went on a crazy run, beat Demetrius Johnson, beat TJ Dillashaw, Marlon Moraes, Dominic Cruz, retires, loses to Aljamain Sterling. And then if he loses to Merab Dvalishvili, that could be the end. And Merab Dvalishvili, will he finally get his due? This man's 33 years old, who is just an absolute nightmare matchup for anybody. Certainly Henry Cejudo, who's a shorter guy that's a wrestler. Merab Dvalishvili is a shorter guy that's a wrestler with a non-stop gas tank that doesn't let you off the hook for a split second, constantly in your face, shooting takedowns constantly, right? They call him the machine. The man is a machine, okay? He just doesn't stop. He doesn't get tired. He's got solid boxing. The boxing's good enough to set up the wrestling. The wrestling's good enough to set up the hands. And the cardio will go all fucking day, right? And the man is 16-4. He's on a crazy win streak. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 fight win streak. Last time out beat Piorian, then Jose Aldo, Marlon Moraes, Cody Stamen, John Dodson, on and on. He's one of the best. He's highly ranked. He might get the winner of Chito Vera and Sugar Sean O'Malley. And he's a bloody social media sensation these days. Merab Dvalishvili is absolutely hilarious.
I'm getting rid of specific coaches, man. Like you included, dude.
A few moments later.
We have a new coach. Thank you, Henry. Goodbye. Goodbye, Henry.
But on paper, it's a bad matchup for Henry Cejudo. It really is. And that's from a fan of Henry Cejudo. Merab's going to fight more, though. He had 1 fight in 2023, 1 fight in 2022, 2 fights in 2021. That's his real issue. He's going to fight more. And then obviously opening up the main card, Anthony Hernandez versus Roman Kopylov. The story here, the legacy for these two is 2 young contenders that are very talented. Hernandez is a fantastic grappler. Roman Kopylov, beautiful striker, excellent kickboxer. Who will emerge, okay, as one of the front runners in this stacked middleweight division? So the legacy is big. There's a lot at stake for everybody fighting on this main card. And of course, all the pressure in the world on the shoulders of one Alexander the Great Volkanovski, because he's coming off the back of a loss. But if anyone can handle that and live up to the pressure and pass the test with flying colours, of course it is the great one, Alexander Volkanovski. What do you think? Am I talking out my ass? Or are you interested in those thoughts? Let me know in the comment section. See you soon. Subscribe, ring the bell. Bye-bye.